Dostoevsky is famous for his long and dense classics. But to be fair, most people start with his Clement Punishment and the Brothers Karamazov and give up on him. There are too many weird names, too many references to the Bible, too many moral dilemmas. Here are some of his short books that can familiarize you with his style without being too much. The Gambler is a fun novella about roulette addiction. You'll find yourself in a place called Roulettenburg, where poor, unfortunate souls come to find an easy way out, to defeat their destiny. You'll experience the anxiety, obsession, and despair of someone who goes all in. We have a professor who works for a general and is in love with the general's stepdaughter. The general himself is in love with the gold digger, and they're all waiting for grandma to die because they want the inheritance. It's an unusual text for Dostoevsky because it doesn't focus on faith as much, but it has the typical scandal, the intrigue, the colorful characters, the love triangle, the love-hate relationship. It also describes the contrast between Russia and Europe and their approaches to gambling. Polina is one of those colorful characters. She was inspired by Dostoevsky's ex-lover, just like his other femme fatale type of characters that we see in The Idiot and the Brothers Karamazov. The female characters in Dostoevsky become more complex, but here we have the first version, and we also see her from the protagonist's point of view, and we cannot trust him, really. We have the grandmother who comes to Roulettenburg and spends her time in casinos instead of dying. She's such a relief from the money-hungry vultures. There's something truly beautiful about going all in when your relatives desperately need your money. Her approach to gambling is something like, who fears the wolf should never enter the forest. And if she entered the forest, oh boy, she stakes her money on zero, which has a small chance of occurrence, but the prize is just huge, and everyone's like, Grandma, stop! The book is very intense, especially at the gambling table, and it's very easy to read and enjoyable and great for the first time. This book is also very personal because 1. Dostoevsky was a gambler himself. 2. He made a deal with the devil. If he didn't deliver something in time, this person would have the rights to publish all his works for 9 years without paying him. And 3, he hired a stenographer to help him, and the stenographer was Anna Grigorievna, who later became his wife. This is the confession of the underground man. The underground is his safe space, a place where he can hide from the rest of the world, but at the same time, it's the place from which he addresses the world, the beginning of his resurrection. Although he insists that he won't publish these notes, he addresses us. He grants us a glimpse into his sick mind. He asks us questions and anticipates our answers. He begins by saying he's sick, but then he realizes that this way he is asking for our sympathy, and he doesn't want us to believe that. So he says that he's spiteful and unattractive. He says, I sick, I spiteful, I unattractive. The definitions he uses for himself can be extended to the people in the state of I. It's ironic that the person who lives in this I shell in the state of close borders has a liver disease because the liver is responsible for detox, and he cannot let his inside world interact with the outside world. If you like Nietzsche, Camus, Sartre, this is the right book for you because it's considered to be the prologue of existentialism. The underground man starts to question reason itself because everything that the mind can prove, it can also destroy. And man cannot be a rational being because he can act against his own interests. And the underground man is living proof. because in the second part of the book, he does exactly the opposite of what he wants. First part is considered to be the theory, and the second one is the practice of why the state of I is not the end. Let's talk about letters relevant to notes from Underground. The Underground man talks about a certain kind of people. He calls F people. The letter F in Russian looks like this. It resembles a man standing straight with his hands on his hips. He accepts the wall, or his earthly life, as an unsurmountable impediment. His coffin is his end. He can act only within the constraints of the laws of nature, or 2 times 2 makes 4. This system is a convenient one for the F people because they can easily become someone. You can become someone only if you fit within the norms of 2 times 2 makes 4. The word I in Russian looks like this. It resembles a person walking. It represents someone who doesn't accept the current paradigm, someone who wants to walk through the wall. This man cannot accept that the laws of nature, the 2 times 2 makes 4, are the only laws possible. For him, there's another law, the law of 2 times 2 makes 5. Although for the conscious man, the wall seems impassable, he cannot accept that there's nothing behind it. The Underground man also describes himself as a mouse, and as we know, mice won't be stopped by walls. Reaching his earthly goals would be betraying his true nature. He prefers the conscious inertia. Very convenient, isn't it? He refuses to accept reality as something reasonable or meaningful. If man has attributes that are useless in the paradigm of 2 times 2 makes 4, then there's something else, something beyond this paradigm. The text has so many layers that we can't discuss in an intro video, like the Underground man's relationship with his servant, the Crystal Palace, the distinction the Underground man makes between himself and everyone, and so much more. But the thing is, you can enjoy the text even without knowing all these things. Even if you hate the narrator, you'll have a unique experience with the notes from Underground. The Dream of a Ridiculous Man is about a man who decides to commit suicide. He feels guilty about not helping a girl on the street look for her mother, and then he has this amazing dream. He describes the process of dying. He describes the life on another planet, a society that is just like ours before the fall of man. He does something bad, which changes everything, and he feels so guilty about it that he begs them to crucify him. If you don't hate utopia and spirituality, read it, because it's about 30 pages long. The Ridiculous Man is like a wise fool. He can be seen as the next step in the development of the Underground man. Unlike the Underground man, though, he says that he knows the truth with a capital T. And he wants to spread this truth, even though he knows that paradise will never come true. There can be no separation in what the Ridiculous man describes as heaven. To do a bad thing, one must be a separate being. Devotion is the only way out of the state of I, according to Dostoevsky. He views humanity as a single body rather than separate beings. This idea is illustrated in his novels and articles, and this is why this short story is such a fundamental text. Now let's move on to more specific recommendations. If you want to read a satire by Dostoevsky, try The Crocodile. A crocodile exhibited in St. Petersburg swallows a liberal called Ivan Matveyevich. He doesn't die. Instead, he begins to preach from the crocodile's stomach. The incident is obviously covered by liberal newspapers. It also changes the way his wife and his friend act. The mismatch between the characters and the masks they wear is the main source of comedy here. The crocodile becomes the source of truth and light. The things described here are as relevant today as they were in 19th century Russia. But let's just say this is not your typical Dostoevsky. You can see that he had very much fun writing it, and maybe, some of you will have fun reading it. If you like to read about twisted relationships, if you like to psychoanalyze characters, if you want a fusion between folklore and mystery, and you like Edgar Allan Poe, try The Landlady. The plot is very ambiguous. Don't let the book description fool you. If you're a romantic at heart and you like sentimental stuff, but very sentimental stuff, you can try White Nights or Poor Folk. Let's just say this is, again, not your typical Dostoevsky. His later works are nothing like this. Almost nothing, but still, they're good if you're really, really sentimental. If you absolutely love Dickens, stop what you're doing and read Humiliated and Insulted. It's a longer book and it has more characters, but the narrative is easy to follow and it's just very touching. The Eternal Husband is one of the most unusual love triangle stories ever. It explores the relationship between the ex-husband and ex-lover instead of focusing on the husband-wife-lover relationship. The husband follows the lover for a few weeks, causing him paranoia, and then enters his room in the middle of the night as an old friend and starts to play mind games with him. We have Vernić, who is the player, and Trusotsky, who recently became a widower. He has an 8-year-old daughter, and he found out that his wife had an affair with someone 9 years ago, and that he's not his daughter's biological father. He wants to find that man and, if you like doppelgangers, Joseph Case and Hoffman, try The Double, but the plot is quite difficult to follow, so you know. This video was just an excuse to talk about Dostoevsky. If you have any suggestions, write them in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye!